Hello and welcome to Under the Moons. Now I don't usually do these face-to-camera videos, but there's something that's happened in the PlayStation VR sphere that I really thought was worth mentioning. Now I've never really been part of this sort of console war mentality of, oh, this console's better, oh no, PC's on top. I don't care enough, but what I do know is that I really like playing games. And I really like playing games on this thing. I mean, so much so that I found myself playing like a far more wider genre of games on the PSVR than any other console or any other kind of gaming system in my life. Now, when we're talking about VR headsets, the PlayStation VR is reigning on top. But if you look at the sort of the console numbers for the PS4, you're looking at something like 70 to 80 million. Now, I'm pretty sure no higher ups at PlayStation thought that, you know, the PSVR would match those console numbers. But still, 3 million is, you know, it's not that much, but it's a pretty big, decent number. And in doing so, it's created this sort of small, passionate community of PlayStation VR players. But I want to bring it back to the sort of the dawn of the PlayStation VR's life cycle. I believe it came out in 2016, or October, November time. And the games that were released in unison with the PSVR were London Studios' PlayStation VR Worlds, Until Dawn's Rush of Blood. There was a few more, and then there was this free one that was called the Playroom VR. Now, the Playroom had already somewhat been an established game or tech demo before. Previously, we saw it when the PlayStation i2 or dual camera PlayStation camera thing came out, and for that game they created these sort of cute robot characters. They were mainly there to demo the motion tracking abilities that, you know, you could backhand them or something. So as expected, these little robot characters returned for the Playroom VR. Several VR experiences have been created to show off couch co-op play, some really creative games, very popular with families, well, especially my family. And then there was sort of the main game called Robot Rescue. Now, unlike the other games, you could play this one on your own. It entailed you controlling a souped up version of one of the robots that had the ability to jump, hover, and attack. Kind of seems like those backhanding lessons came in handy. The aim of the game was to traverse through the Mario-esque landscape, collecting coins and saving your little robot friends from their purple hexahedron oppressors. Now, your little blue buddy you controlled wasn't the only utility at your disposal. The DualShock 4 plays a large part. Not only do you store the rescued robots under the touchpad button, but also you used it to help bridge chasms with a hookshot style tool. Using the DualShock 4 like this really helped boost the immersion factor, as it was something, you know, you were holding in your hand. It wasn't trying to be anything else. It kind of ended up being sort of like a Swiss Army controller in the end. But like I said, having it in your hand really helped with the immersion factor. The game was only something like 10 minutes long, but it cemented in my mind at least that this was a perfect way to do a VR platformer. And I wasn't the only one. The community loved it and were instantly calling for a full game. In fact, whilst promoting an additional game for the Playroom, the developers sort of got the idea and were happy to hear all the fans' admiration, and I think they kind of got a bit tired of it as well. And that was the last we heard of the Playroom, or our little blue friend. You know, the idea that this game could be a full game never left people's minds. You kept seeing it referenced up in some of the subreddits and whatnot. I think the idea that this could actually be a possibility kind of sprung into people's heads again once London Studios, the guy who did the PlayStation VR Worlds game, one of their sub-games they did was called The London Heist, a really great fun sort of short action-orientated game. They announced that they were beginning a full release called Blood and Truth, which is, I think it's to come out later on this year. But the announcement of that kind of reignited the flame of a lot of people thinking, oh, a game that was made for the release of the PSVR can be made into a full game later down on the line, which, you know, the idea that we might be able to see our little robot friend again was exciting. But just this last week, in fact I think only a couple of days ago, Sony's Interactive Entertainment CEO stated, while the platform, PSVR, continues to sell, the growth speed of the market as a whole is lower than expected. This was quite a chunky hit, especially to the passionate PSVR community. In fact, the way some of the community members took it, it seemed like Sony had just said, oh, this will be no more than a Virtual Boy 2, and all the games that are in production will be ceased. That's nowhere near what they said. In fact, they were just stating the obvious, really. But you could tell that it kind of worried a lot of the PSVR adopters quite a bit. You can kind of see this as like a low point for the community, but it lasted 2 days because, well, yeah, 2 days later, Sony sort of showcased this E3 preview event for industry insiders, and they had a load of new games coming to the PSVR. That London Studios game, Blood and Truth, made an appearance, got a lot of people excited for that. Firewall 0 was there as well for people to demo, which is sort of like a VR version of Rambo 6 Siege. And that seemed to look like it was making fantastic use of the really well designed aim controller. And a game I hadn't heard of before called Evasion appeared. Sort of looked like an intense co-op shooter akin to the fantastic Farpoint. Again, utilising the hell out of the aim controller. But there was one more game, one that no one knew was coming. Japan Studio was there and they showed off, announced that they had indeed been working on a follow-up to Robot Rescue. It was there to demo, many people played it and they said it was fantastic. This is great news. And not only were we seeing a return of our blue bestie, now named Astro Bot, but he'll be travelling through 26 levels to find 200 of his lost bots. It looks as though there's a diverse range of landscapes you can go for, from a hot desert to underwater caves. I think Windlands was in there, Sonic, New Donk City, far more than I'd ever imagined, and new abilities given to the DualShock 4. Just this shot of ninja stars being shot out of it really makes me excited for the other additional tools that we could be seeing. And to top it off, they'd snag the Little Big Planet / Tearaway composer Kenneth Young. I hadn't actually ever experienced this before, being part of a community and reacting to a game and just asking and pleading almost for Sony to create a follow-up to this very short demo. And the fact that Sony, this big corporation, got one of its own studios to come along and actually, create this for something that only has an install base of 3 million compared to that 70 to 80 million. I just thought it was fantastic and really worth, mentioning and definitely commending. Like I said, I'm not part of this sort of, Xbox, PS4 or PC kind of debating culture, but it really makes me feel kind of like quite akin to Sony that they were actually able to go out their way and create this game because the fans asked for it. It's kind of the first time that I've really felt that their PlayStation 4 slogan for the players actually meant for the players. So I just want to say bravo Sony, and thank you very much. I've been under the moons, passionate VR fan. If you've never played one of these and you're interested in, try and find a friend or a demo area. Don't just look at it and go, oh, that's silly. Try it out. You don't want to be someone who goes through life and be biased on just looking at something. I think there's a saying like judge a book by its cover or something. I don't know. Anyway, I've been under the moons. Thanks for watching, and if you like this kind of stuff, please subscribe. Would really help. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time, Under the Moons.